There was a time when getting a college degree meant you were getting ahead in life, or you were just above the average, or simply working for various reasons and not just for money. More or less, that's still true. Now it's just the minimum requirement just to get your foot in the door or to get promoted. This constant upward shift of expectation is messing with our minds in a way we don't even realize. Your achievement meant more back in the 70s or even in the 80s or maybe even in the 90s. And it probably meant more prior to that. In 1970, I don't know how many jobs required a bachelor's degree. I did try my best to find information about this. Some resources said 20 to 25%, others say maybe 17 to 22%. Now that number seems to be way over 40% based on what I've seen. Let's look at the population. In the 70s, it was around 11% that had a degree, and in the 80s, it was about 16%, and in the 90s, it became 20%. Notice the trend? It's not just the percentage increase, it's also the total population that increased alongside with it. Meaning, even if the percentage did stay the same, the number of people getting the degree would still have increased. Now I'm trailing off, so let's get back to the point of this video. Now it's like you're expected to get that degree. At least that's what it was like for a lot of us, who grew up in the 80s and 90s. And I'm pretty sure most of you who are watching this video felt the same thing. And whether you like it or not, you do get judged for having one or not. Even if people say that, they say like, oh, it's okay, I think it's pretty useless. They don't even notice that they're even doing it. Now that there's so many people with degrees and, possibly they can't even find jobs now or any kind of work. What does that mean? Now to get ahead, you have to get a master's or even some sort of certificate from other training programs. In this hypothetical situation, everyone sees that master's is the way to go to get ahead. Everyone's going to strive to get it. Realistically, I don't think we're there right now, but it sure seems like we're heading in that direction. And if this trend continues, there's going to be an abundance of people with master's degrees to the point where now it's expected you to get whatever above master's is a PhD. And then at that point, bachelor's degree now feels like what associate's degree is like right now. Almost meaningless. It's still a degree, but how often do you see places that says, oh, you need at least an associate's degree? And this also appears in workplaces too, where expectation just keeps rising. And here's an example. Let's say that you're working at a white-collar job, and it was typical for you to work 40 hours and then you just get your work done. Now just working 40 hours isn't good enough to get the promotion or even to probably keep the job. You got to do way better. Maybe it's more hours. Maybe it's, you have to constantly strive to one up each other, and you don't even know that you're doing it. You can call it friendly competition all you want, but you have to do better. So you work even more, but you're not the only one doing it. Pretty much it feels like everyone else is doing it also. Pretty soon it's going to expect everyone to be at that level, and that just became a standard. And there's always going to be ways to reverse course on the standardization of these practices, but it's going to take a mass adoption, and I don't know how that's going to work. It could be through governmental policies, or it could be a mass strike. Based on what I've see here in Japan, it appears that working hours has been decreasing ever so slightly and very slowly. Keep hearing about, overworked hours and all that all over the internet. I'm not exactly sure how or why, since I haven't really experienced work culture here firsthand. I've only really experienced it secondhand when I was working in the States. It could be because there's a growing number of young people refusing the idea of working for a company that's going to make them miserable. And I've also been seeing a lot of ads and trains about career changes, which I'm guessing wasn't that prominent. I know that, once you're in that company, you're basically in that company for life. At least that's how it used to. And this idea of a lifetime company work is becoming less normal, but also there's also an influx of lazy people working for companies too, or not working at all. And a lot of them were not really lazy to begin with. probably, during their school days, they probably did have ambitions. But that baseline expectations killed their desire to work because whatever that baseline expectations was, what their parents were, that baseline is not here. It's up here. Like their parents' baseline expectation was here. Now it's like here. And I'm sure you all know how strong that pressure was, or even is right now if you're still in school or even working. And there will come a time when society's going to make a choice. The choice where the baseline will increase or it will drop, or it's going to fluctuate slightly higher or lower. And if it does increase, it will be a benefit to society at a cost of greater number of people's mental state. However, if it does decrease, it will most likely cause a slowdown in technological and economical progress, but a higher rate of happier people. And I truly believe that. Right now, you see a bunch of people doing side hustles on top of their jobs. So what does that mean when more and more people starts doing these side hustles on top of their job? That's going to start becoming an expected thing for you to do. And how many of you remember in these younger years that there was a lot of expectations from your parents or grandparents where they would compare you to either with your friends or other people. Maybe more so in, East Asian cultures, but it surely happened to me. And I'm like, for me, the line went something like, その子見てごらん。なんであなたもできないの? Or they'll compare their friends, children. And this happened almost daily. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people who experienced something similar. And you see how that just because the standard to be at that level wasn't really meant for everybody. Probably most people. I sometimes wonder if we're going to ever hit that peaking point, or maybe we're getting close to it. And we're going to be sustaining that expectation. Or maybe it's going to take a completely different approach. And if that expectation does start to drop off, will society pick it back up again? And it's going to stay in that fluctuating maintenance mode? Or will there be a massive change in the market?